At Lifehack Coaching, we help women over 35 to balance hormones naturally, boost metabolism, and lose weight sustainably. Hi everyone, today I'm chatting with Eden Watson. I've known Eden for 8 years, feels like more than that, through Two Brain Business, where Eden is Customer Success Manager. She is looking after all amazing clients, making sure that they know what they're doing and been looked after and happy and all that cool stuff. So her role is really, really important. And last year, Eden's life has changed quite a bit when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. So we're going to talk about what's been happening, how it's really been like, what adjustments had to happen in her life, in professional impact of this, and also hormonal chaos that's created and being in stage of your life as well at the same time. So on top of everything else, Eden also she's a published author. And she's written her first book 2 years ago, and it has been her desire since she's been a little girl, enjoyed writing books and creating stories and all that cool stuff. And her first book is Nice to Meet You, Dad. And that book has been inspired by her life as mom, wife, and also nature lover. Eden lives in Northern Ontario with her husband, a son, and how many? 3 cats. You got 3 cats.
Right.
And who of them only featured in the book? Why only 2?
We didn't have the third one yet.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Just
wow.
means I have to write in the third cat. Yeah.
That's the way to pick 2 favorites. I'm glad cats can read. Otherwise, one of them will be a bit sad.
Exactly.
Anyway, today is not about polished stories or anything like that. It's about the real stuff, the cancer, the perimenopause, well, actually menopause for you now, parenting, and how did you manage to keep it all together during this crazy time in your life. Anyway, he is helping business owners to succeed, right? So how did facing your own personal health challenges and battle and the change in cancer, how did it change the way you think about success in, like, for yourself and for the people that you work with?
Oh, that's a good question. Thanks for asking me this, and thanks for asking me to be a part of your podcast and share this with folks. The cancer diagnosis probably made me even more empathetic or sympathetic to people. You know me fairly well and know that I am a pretty empathetic and kind of person, and I feel deeply for people. And yeah, it was time for me to reflect and say, oh, wow, okay, good thing you have a good hedge of health, because this is going to take its toll. And I think part of how I reframed things for myself was I had to give myself a little more grace than I had. I like to do things very well. I like to be very high performing in my role and on top of it all in life. And I think having that cancer, having to, go through chemotherapy and surgery and treatment, that has, given me, a bit of more grace for myself. I think it taught me that everything doesn't have to be perfect to, move forward on things. And it's okay also to relax your standards a little and let yourself have that time to heal, have that, that precious time that I needed to kind of get healthy again.
Yeah, because you didn't even take much time off at all. It's kind of happening.
Yeah.
You're like, a few months
even
off.
taking the time off, even taking that time off was, sort of a big deal, because it kind of feels like letting people down that you're going to be taking time off. You kind of feel a bit of shamed of, well, why do you have to take time off? You've been so healthy and what's going on, that sort of thing. So it felt kind of odd for me to be doing that. But I knew, like it's major, obviously. There's no getting around it. It was a major life, a very scary situation, a very huge change, mentally, physically, all facets of my life were affected.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something, a part of, I'm sure it'll kind of come up as we talk, but part of what I, really recognized as something that was important to me was surrounding myself with other people who have lived through a breast cancer diagnosis and had treatment
Yeah.
and or other cancers, because it is quite a mindset shift that you have to stay positive and optimistic, but you're also fighting for your life. So it's a very weird position to be in.
Yeah, so it would have been quite a big mindset shift for you, right? So because
Mm.
you didn't just get cancer, you already were in perimenopause as well, right? So that's kind of double trouble right there.
That's
Yeah, so what were the biggest challenges you faced that no one talks about?
I would say probably just that feeling of you feel very alone and isolated, even though you have, that if you have some community, thank goodness, because that's going to help you not so alone and isolated. And those perimenopausal symptoms were, like you mentioned, already present for me, just given my age. And then now my treatment, part of the treatment that I'm on now post chemo, is to quash any estrogen that I have in my body. So, because it is cancer that I have is estrogen receptor positive, it's called. So if I have estrogen present in my body, it could, have cancer coming back. So we definitely don't want that. So I can't do any hormone replacement therapy. I can't have
Yeah.
any. And the hormone therapy is basically putting me into chemically induced menopause. So that whole facet of it, I was just learning about perimenopause, and then I had to just start learning about cancer, breast cancer, this specific type of breast
Yeah.
cancer. For me, I know you're the same. We like to be informed and we like to know what our bodies are doing. We like to almost be the expert on the thing that we're going through. So for me, I thought I had to become the oncologist. I didn't have to become the oncologist. There is an oncologist that I'm assigned, and I didn't have to know everything. That was part of what I had to grapple with, is that I have to, hand myself over to this trained professional who's going to take good care of me. And so I would kind of digest small bits of the treatment at a time, so I didn't get too far ahead of myself and worry myself even more. Of course, there was a low grade anxiety and worry about everything, but learning bits and pieces about the treatment, that really helped. I think one thing that I really kept in mind was to stay curious about all the different bits of this. I was very curious, intentionally curious about learning about the cancer, learning now more so about the menopause and the effect of the drug that I'm taking on that change of life, and curious about the mood shifts and all of that. Because I think when you stay curious about those changes, you can keep a little bit more of an open mind and be a little more care friendly to yourself about that, even though your mind is really, a mess sometimes, and forgetfulness. The memory is affected by the menopause, the memory is affected by the chemotherapy. So yeah, like you said, a double whammy for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is like really cool at what you said is when you know and understand what the symptoms might be, you kind of more prepared how to deal with them. Because like I
Mhm.
remember when I went into early perimenopause and I was totally gaslighted that it's not that, it's too early, it can be. And I was experiencing anxiety and rage and everything. They were trying to tell me, oh, this is that, or let's put you on antidepressants. I'm like, why? I want to know why I'm having this. This is a symptom. This is not a illness. Like, why am I having this symptom? Where it's coming from? And,
Yeah.
it's been years now since I had my anxiety. What, 41. So that's 4 years, right? But it took me about nearly 2 years to get this under control.
Right.
And now when I'm feeling on the edge or ragey or anxious, I'm like, okay, I'm thinking like why this is happening. Like, why am I feeling this way? Like, I know it's a hormones and I know it's because I'm in perimenopause, all of that stuff, but why right now? What did I do or didn't I do? And since I had my hysterectomy, I'm not allowed to take anything for the first 6 weeks. I'm not allowed to take my testosterone that I was taking, not allowed to take any progesterone that I was taking. And progesterone was helping me to calm my nervous system down because progesterone is a calming hormone. So when you don't have enough of it, that's when you're experiencing the rage and anger and anxiety and all of that. And so I've been a bit on the edge for the last couple of days. And I'm like, that's right. I'm not having any hormones. That's why it's kicking in now. Like I'm finally starting to feel how I was feeling before because I'm not taking any support, right? But if I didn't know what I know now, I would probably freak out and it probably will go into panic attack or something like that. But because you know and you have a knowledge and understanding, you're like, okay, this is happening because I'm depleting again. I'm low.
Mhm.
So I just either need to get through the next 4 weeks or 3 weeks left. I'm counting every week until I can take it again. Or you just have to be a bit more caring and loving to yourself and nurture yourself a little bit more because you know you can have it and you need it. Maybe just give yourself a little bit of grace and not be too hard on screaming at everyone that walks past you or anyone who's breathing next to you, right? So this leads me then to a question. You have a son. He is preteens now.
Yeah, what a perfect time.
So your hormones or lack of, his hormones, a lot of.
Yep.
How's that working out?
That's working out very interestingly. So I've been very open with him about, obviously about the cancer diagnosis, and he's learning in school about puberty and learning about his hormones that are coming online. And I've shared with him about the cancer and how the estrogen is, we've got to kill this estrogen off. And so he's understanding really what about this because I'm sharing it with him because I don't think I need to hide that from him. It's important for him to know what is going through and what women go through.
Yeah.
So he took all of that in. And at one point we were kind of having a little cuddle and chat about it. And he said, Mom, we can be hormone buddies. And I thought that is so kind. Poop tweet. Like he picked up on it right away that we were on a roller coaster of hormones and we can be buddies about that. And it's absolutely true. We are going through these very shifting, very wild shift of hormones together. Yeah. And it's going to be challenging. It's going to have its moments. I just have to, like I said before, lead with curiosity, be curious about and kind of how you're explaining, like this day, why am I feeling this way? And yes, if I can't have the hormones to kind of get me out of this slump or the rage episodes, these forgetful episodes or loss of focus, whatever the one is of the hour, what can I do instead to manage that? So, there are some tools in my toolbox that I've had to rely on more so than before. Yeah. So I know I need to keep up. With fitness at least 2 times a week. I do personal training.
Nice.
Because if I don't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
All through the therapy, I did a lot of walking outdoors, like to get the fresh air. I haven't been walking as much right now, but I'll start running now at Northern Ontario. We're just finally getting our spring. I'll be able to spend more time outdoors, but activity is major for sure.
Yeah.
And even when I'm not talking, on the phone or talking to people for work, I have a treadmill. Brain can't remember simple words sometimes in menopause, as you know. Put my computer on the treadmill and I work
the
from
walking.
the treadmill. The walking. I can get a decent amount of steps while I'm working that way, and I find that really helpful. There is a lack of motivation some days to get myself from here literally to over there where the treadmill is, but once I'm on it, just like going to the gym, once I'm there and I get moving on it, it helps for sure. Back to my son and his hormones, he's a very active guy. Like if he's not doing something active that day, I haven't noticed a change in his behavior, but I'm sure there would be. But he's naturally just a very active guy. Where growing up, I wasn't as active as him. So I'm so glad though that that's built into his character and who he is, because he's never going to wonder, oh, maybe I should introduce more exercise into my life. It's like he just craves it and loves all sports. So he's doing it no matter.
No, that's cool. That's awesome. Quick question off the topic a little bit. I was just thinking, because you're in an induced menopause, so they fully depleting your estrogen, which means that your bone density is going to go down, right? Mm-hmm. Are you doing any testing to see where your bone density now and then retest it to see where it's at?
She's going to do a test on that. I think it's coming up in June, but it will be part of the protocol. And then they'll do some hormone testing to, confirm that I'm truly in menopause, because I think I switch medications at some point when I'm stay on one for like 5 years, but I have to switch to a different one. Yeah. There is some follow-up there, but you bring up a good point about the bone density. And I know, I've heard weight training is important for that. And I've always, practiced weight training. And so that's something that's happening at least the 2 days a week. And then I try to mix in one more kind of workout from home with weight. Yeah. And then just weight stuff. I'm doing some yoga also on the side, but
Yeah.
I've always loved that one. That one is, I do like the weight training, so I
Yeah.
like keeping.
Yeah.
But funny enough, like another thing about giving myself grace is when I started back after having my chemotherapy. So I just finished chemo 1 year ago, April, like middle of April. So it's
Yeah.
been 1 year and so
Oh,
I'm 1
wow.
year back fully at the gym and everything. Yeah. And I had to really give myself grace because I wasn't as strong, like I was literally, I know that people
Yeah.
joke in the CrossFit, world, like your workouts are warm up, that kind of thing. I was definitely doing a warm up out of the workout. That was the whole thing for me. And I had to
Yeah.
say, yeah, all that I can do right now. Because chemotherapy, they say, is not cumulative. It doesn't get more and more dramatic. Like it doesn't affect your body more and more each time, but it did.
Yeah.
By the end of it,
Yeah.
really worn down. I wasn't nauseous or anything. It was just, I was so fatigued, so tired,
Yeah.
and just did not have any. So getting back to the gym more fully. I mean, I did a little bit of stuff on my own at home during the
Yeah.
chemotherapy. I didn't
Yeah.
totally let my fitness go, but I just didn't feel comfortable. I didn't want to get exposed to anything like infections wise because it would postpone my
Yeah.
next treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't. Yeah, I just didn't do the gym at that time. I probably could have maintained a little bit, but anyway, it took me now till this, next full year to get back to my previous level of fitness. And that's being someone who's worked out for 15 or so years, like
Yeah.
keep it up.
Yeah.
People that is important. People keeping
100%.
it up and not just to not lose your bone density in menopause,
Yes.
but like to have that hedge of health, to have that
Yeah.
benefit there.
Yeah, well, you definitely, resistance training is important. Reformer Pilates is quite good too. So if you want to try that, that's really good. Then yeah, doing extreme training is good. But also, I don't know if you have weighted vests. So when you do your walks on your treadmill, get a weighted vest. It doesn't have to be heavy or anything. It just needs to add a little bit more weight to what you are. So it creates that a bit of more resistance. So that becomes your resistance training.
Yeah. I handle it now. Maybe 6 months ago, it would have been too much, but no, I can definitely handle that now. I'm glad that you told me that because I can incorporate that easily.
Yeah, I had looked on Amazon. There's plenty. There's plenty different options, and they're not expensive. They're like maybe $30, $40, so it's not too bad at all. It's just a little thing that you put in here, clip it, and you can clip on the top or clip underneath, whatever, and you just put it on and do your walking while you're working.
But it reminded me of when my son was so little. He was never little because he was a big baby. I would wear him, right? I would wear him on the back when he was on the front, little, and I walked around with him all the time, and he was. By the time I was done doing that, he was 40 pounds. So I can get back to that.
Resistance training. Yeah. You've done this before. You can do this again.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So thank you so much for sharing it. So for the woman that listening right now, or maybe feeling a little bit overwhelmed with the challenges, family, work, all the things that's happening, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
Well, you know what? I applied to the cancer. This applies probably to the perimenopause and professional life too. Find a community that supports you. Like I said, right off the top.
Yeah.
Got my diagnosis directly I knew that there would be groups on Facebook. There's a province-wide group for breast cancer, and there's a local group, the Breast Friend group. And I joined those groups, and, I needed that support. I needed to be able to ask questions about going through and vice versa. And now, because I'm, a year out of this, just last night I was messaging back and forth with a woman who's just been diagnosed with, a young mom in these shoes, and she's so scared. And of course she is. And she doesn't know, you don't know about any of this until you're thrust into it.
Yeah.
So, but I would say the same thing for the perimenopause, because now that's kind of the focus, or the menopause is kind of my focus, and being involved in a community like that, having some supportive tools that people have been through. There's just symptoms. I just want to know about them, and I want to know how to fight them off in different ways. And I think a community like that is great. Leaning on my girlfriends, of course, leaning on friends and family is for sure important. But if they haven't lived that experience, just having that other subset of community was really important for me.
Yeah.
So finding that is pivotal.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to interview you and have a chat to me about, your experience and your story. I'm sure it will be super beneficial for a lot of women. And it's such a, you're such a superstar to go through a very challenging time and come out on the other end and still stay positive and happy and be, happy support for everyone else. So that's fantastic. So yeah, thank you so much for being with me today.
Yeah, thank you for letting me chat with you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
If you have any questions about this podcast or about hormones, weight loss, or just healthier lifestyle, please go to our website at lifehackcoaching.co.nz or feel free to email me directly, Anastasia, at lifehackcoaching.co.nz.